welcome along. And Tony Mepham is in the studio with me. And Tony, storm after storm after storm. We do seem to be getting a little bit behind with the football. We've mentioned in a little chat with Chris Sully before you came up, Chris Pearson rather, that there were some fixture backlogs now, and obviously with the Railway Cups, the well-documented one, with the first half of the Canada Light Premier League not being played on time, the first half, to get to the top four and the semi-finals. What's it looking like now? Because when you have, like last weekend, the GH Call at Woods Cup prelim round, 5 games postponed, that compounds things, doesn't it? Because they've got to go to the next weekend.
Yeah, it's a knock-on effect, Tim, because also the teams that are in the GH Call at Woods Cup can be involved in the ECAP FA Cup as well, so it has a knock-on effect. But it's just the way the weather is at the moment, because you just think at the start of the week, it don't look too bad, this is going to be okay, and then sort of Thursday night seems to chuck it down, Friday's not so pleasant, and then Saturday it hurtles it down, so it is causing problems. People say to me, where are we with the Railway Cup? Well, the way the Railway Cup is at the moment, there's still a few games to play. We're hoping to get the St George's and Douglas Athletic game out of the way. St George's Moran, but it didn't happen. Then we've got Douglas Athletic Peel to play. We've got Corinthians Old Boys, Corinthians Douglas Royal. So there's still an awful lot to go before.
But they've got to be fitted in and around the second half fixtures. There's no sort of free weekend where they can automatically go.
Yeah, what I try to do, and people have said that if we lose any games this week in the GH Woods Cup, where do we go with them? Do we put them on next week because you've done it this week? I looked at it. I do spend a bit of time, and just to see that we don't disrupt the fixtures too much. And apart from one, which was Ramsey Centre against Colby and Comby, we got all the Comby games on, so happy days. But now it's starting to get really messy, because next week we've got to get the Ramsey Centre v Corinthians ECAP FA Cup game out of the way. So that means that the Unimills and Ramsey Centre game will have to go, and it just gets so untidy. And the problem is, clubs have a look at, sort of the weather, and are trying to make contingency plans. And, last week we were very fortunate that St Mary's weren't using the bowl, so we managed to get a game on.
It was the only game, wasn't it, that went ahead?
And it still wasn't pleasant down there, but hopefully, better weather is in sight in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then we can get going. And once the clocks go backwards, then we can get some night games on as well, Tim. But it's going to be a mad rush at the end of the season once again.
Forwards.
Is it? It goes
spring forward, fall back.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right, okay. You're teaching me something.
Well, I just didn't want you
just
dishing
more light,
out.
Anyway.
Didn't want you dishing out wrong kick-off times for a start. Let's just briefly look at the GH Call at Woods Cup prelim round, because we could just replay what we said a week ago.
Yeah.
The game is St John's Colby. St John's are the form team in that division at the moment.
Yeah, they're going well, and fair play to them, because they were relegated last year, and it was unfortunate circumstances that happened that caused it, but it happened. Rules are rules, and they're going really well. And when you look at Adam Watterson came in, took the manager's role, and not unfortunately for Adam, he was offered a job in Dubai, so he's gone to Dubai to work. Callum Taggart's been struggling a little bit with an injury, so Callum took the job over. Callum's really good. I know the players are happy with him being there. And what a great game this is against Colby. They'd love to get into the final, both of these teams, for Good Friday. But there's a bit of work to go before that will happen. But certainly at the moment, St John's, they've been scoring a few goals as well, which helps them. I think Nick Lung's still away, so defensively they'll miss him. But I'm pretty certain that St John's will be quite confident going into this game that they can beat Colby after Colby dropped those points against Foxdale.
Yeah, they've gone on a run of no defeat in 10, in that it's 8 wins and 2 draws.
Yeah,
so they're
strong,
in great
strong performance.
Great form. Pick us winners in the other 4 ties, if you would.
Certainly will. Ramsey Centre against D&D. I'm going to go with the league position and go for Ramsey Centre in that. Onken and Michael, I'm not too convinced, because Michael have pulled their socks up of late and played really well. They've got an absolute gem in Kieran McNulty. There's Nick Hurt's experience still there at the back.
Well, let me just put that in context, because Michael, the last 4 games, they're unbeaten. Okay, 3 of them were draws, 1 a win. Onken, in their last 3 games, 3 losses, and if you go to their last 5 games, it's 4 losses.
Yeah, when you look at the Michael game as well, that was abandoned against St John's. 38 minutes played, Tim, and it was 0-0. So that just shows you where Michael are at the moment, and Onken have got to be very careful with this one because, as you say, a little bit of drop of confidence in that one. But St John's Colby, I'm going to opt for St John's to win that one. Jim's against Braddon again. Braddon, a lot of young players there. Well done to them for sort of getting back on track. You'll have seen it, Tim, when they sort of struggle for players, and they're going really well, and I think they'll beat Jim's. And Governors Athletic against Union Mills. You know, Union Mills are battling as well at the top of the table. They're looking to get promoted, and if it doesn't happen for them, a good cup run and try and get into the Paul Henry is what they're challenging themselves for.
Let's take a look at the Canada Light Premier League that returns this time around. And, well, there's no doubt where the big game is it? It's the Bowl. St Mary's top against Russian, currently in second. 9 points between them. Russian do have a game in hand, though. So if they won this one, it just might just give people a little bit of a chance and a bit of hope of catching St Mary's. If they lose it and St Mary's go further clear, they're in the box seat, aren't they, anyway?
I'm not so sure, Tim, because you look at the top sides, they've all got to play each other. You know, St Mary's fixtures towards the end of the season, it's really tough. They've got big teams to play. They've got a big cup game coming up as well. Nice to have Josh Kelly back in because he'll be the mainstay, I would think, in front of goal. 7 straight wins. Well, exactly. But, you know, the teams that they've played, you would have expected those to have come, Tim. I watched them against D&D. What was it, 3-0, 4-0? So that was in the Cup. Yeah. So, you know, even though they're getting the wins, they're not as convincing as they were at the start of the season. And that's not knocking St Mary's. It's purely, you know, down to sort of players not being available. But I think it's a need to win game for Russian if they're going to challenge this. As you rightly say, they've got a game in hand. If they beat St Mary's, that opens it up big time, I think, for everybody. But there's some huge games coming up in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and that'll give us a pointer of where this Canada Life Fair Trophy is going to go. Weather permitting, but certainly tomorrow it won't be a problem because it's at the Bowl, and pretty certain Alex Harrison's looking forward to it. It's great now, Tim, because you've got St George's, you've got Russian, St Mary's, Corinthians, Peel, all challenging at the top of the table, and they can't afford to drop any. The thing is with St Mary's, they've got the games played, they've got the points on the board, but they'll be looking at the fixtures towards the end of the season, and they know if they're going to win this league, that's where the points are going to have to be won to make that happen. Laxey battled hard against Corinthians in the Cup a week ago, and they host Peel, who are making the trip from the west to the east. Yeah, it's touch and go, this one. Speaking to Johnny this morning, Johnny Palmer, about the pitch. You know, it's a little bit wet. They're down in that dip, but you know, hopefully, you know, tonight is not too bad and they get the game on. Yes, I thought Laxey were great value for 45 minutes last week, the first half. They were on top in the first half, weren't they? They were on top, and forget the wind conditions, they were the better footballing team. And they were playing more into it, weren't they? Well, the wind, yeah, and I think that's what helped Corinthians a little bit in the second half, because sometimes, you know, the players with the wind, well, fancy, I'm going to be a world beater. Yeah, let's have a go here from distance. And, you know, that was set out from the first minute when I think it was Steve Whitley from the centre spot had a ping at goal. Well, that was the sort of setting out of how strong that wind was. But in the second half, it died down a little bit. And, you know, Laxey competed, but Corinthians, you know, they're not third in the league because they're a poor side. And Blaine Slattery's half-time talk got them fired up again. They played a lot better. I thought Kane Riding on that left-hand side played really well. Conor Gorman's ball to him for his finish was fantastic. No Sean Doyle, so, you know, Luke Murray had the responsibility. He scored 2 goals. And I think Corinthians were quite happy. Ryan Burns solid at the back, and Cameron Lee wasn't there. But, you know, Corinthians have got a strong squad. But I think here for Laxey against Peel, smaller pitch might just help them a little bit. But don't forget, these two teams had a right good battle early on in the season. And with 1 or 2 of their top players, and we'll speak to one of them later, Lee Gale and Rhys Oates still injured, then it might just give the sort of initiative a little bit to Laxey to have a go. Just give us winners, if you would, in the other games. Corinthians, Moran, Pulrose, Ramsey and St George's against Douglas Royal. Well, Corinthians against Moran, I'm going to go for Corinthians. It was a strong win for them early on in the season. Pulrose and Ramsey, it's a must-win for Pulley. Pulley need to take the 3 points away from the teams around them. Obviously, if Ramsey win, they go on 7, Pulley stay on 1, as where if it goes the other way and Pulley win, they go on 4, and Ramsey on 4, so it keeps all things nice and tight. But St George's against Royal, I've forgotten the last date, Tim. St George's played football, but Douglas Royal will be no pushovers. They're a strong squad now. They've brought in 2 or 3 really good under-18 players, and they're starting to gel as a team. And at St George's, they won't be frightened of that, and it'll make for a good battle.